She said right into the mic, "My Uncle Ed's always been so simple, generous, but never really made it in life." People laughed. I just sat there. Have you ever been humiliated by someone you once helped, someone you raised, fed, and believed in, while everyone around pretended it was just a joke? I didn't shout, I didn't argue. But what I did next, it changed everything. Before we jump in, I want to know, where in the world are you right now and what time are you listening? Let me know in the comments. It happened at Rebecca's wedding. I hadn't planned to stay long, just show up, shake a few hands, watch her smile. She was my niece, though I'd raised her like a daughter after her father died. The hotel ballroom gleamed with gold ribbons and tall glasses, the kind of shine that makes you feel small the moment you walk in. I found a seat near the back. No one noticed. Then she took the mic. Her voice carried across the hall, steady, rehearsed. She thanked people, cracked jokes, and talked about her husband's success. I felt proud in a quiet, private way. Until she said it. "My Uncle Ed's here tonight." She smiled toward me. "He's always been simple, generous, but never really made it big in life." The room laughed. A few clapped. Someone said, "That's sweet." My chest tightened like something had closed around it. She moved on, still smiling, her husband's hand on her back. Maybe she didn't realize what she'd done. The chuckles lingered anyway. I lifted my glass just to have something to do. The wine trembled. My hands wouldn't keep still. I'd spent 40 years as an engineer, built bridges, towers. Holmes helped pay her tuition, lent her mother money more times than I could count. But that night, I was the poor relative, the joke in the corner. A man nearby leaned closer. "She didn't mean it that way, Ed. The kind of pity that burns more than the insult." I nodded, pretending agreement, lips dry. The laughter faded, replaced by small talk and the chime of cutlery. Music returned, and I was supposed to move with it. Something broke then, not loudly, just a small, clean crack somewhere deep. I looked across the tables. Rebecca glowed, laughing, radiant. I remembered her as a girl sitting on my porch eating popsicles, asking why I worked so much. I'd told her, because it's how we stand on our own feet. Now she stood on hers and didn't want me standing beside her. I set the glass down carefully. A waiter offered another. I refused. The steadiness of my voice surprised me. Toasts followed. Applause. People bragged about vacations, investments, new homes. My name didn't belong in any of it. For years I'd believed silence was dignity, that if I stayed calm, truth would reveal itself. Sitting there, I realized silence also makes you easy to erase. When the cake came out, I stood. No one looked up. I slipped through the crowd, murmured an excuse, and stepped into the hall. The music dulled behind the door. Across the street, the river reflected the city lights. Each step stripped away a little of the anger, pride, the ache to be acknowledged. What remained was fatigue. I stopped at a bench near the water. My hands still trembled. A young couple passed, laughing easily, untethered by memory or shame. I envied that weightlessness. Faint music floated from the ballroom and vanished into the wind. I thought of going back, pretending nothing had happened, but knew I couldn't. Returning would only shrink me further. So I stayed. Watched the lights scatter across the river. People say dignity is how you carry yourself. Maybe it's also knowing when to stop carrying everything else. My phone buzzed. Marian's name flashed on the screen, an old friend. "You holding up her message," read. Stared at it, thumb hovering, then slipped the phone back into my pocket. No words could fit the shape of that moment. Rebecca's words replayed in my head, simple, generous, never made it big. Maybe she was right about the last part. Still, I'd built things that stood long after names were forgotten. At home the next morning, the invitation lay on the table, a coffee stain spreading across one corner. The phone buzzed, neighbors asking how the night went. I let it ring. The quiet afterward felt heavier than the calls. I'd spent years believing family meant patience, that kindness mattered more than being right. That morning I started wondering if I'd confused patience with silence. A message from an old co-worker appeared. Heard about the wedding. Don't take it too hard, man. She's young. I deleted it. Youth always gets forgiven. Age never does. Around noon, I called Marion, my oldest friend, a retired teacher with no talent for pretending. I saw the photos, she said before I spoke. You looked miserable. I was fine. No, you weren't. You were humiliated. Don't sugarcoat it. I tried to laugh. It's over. I'm not making a scene. Ed's silence isn't virtue when it makes you small. You ever think your quiet lets them believe they're right? Her words stuck. I muttered something about groceries and hung up. At the store, I pushed a half-empty cart without aim. The cashier's "Thank you, sir," hit me harder than I expected. On the way back, a couple crossed in front of my car, arms full of flowers, laughing. It stung, the resemblance to that ballroom image of Rebecca and her husband under chandeliers. Pride and shame tangled in my chest. A blinking voicemail waited at home. I pressed play. Hey, Uncle Ed, it's Mark. Rebecca didn't mean anything by it. She was nervous. Everyone thought it was funny. Try not to make this weird, okay? His kindness sounded like a request to keep swallowing the hurt alone. I sank onto the couch, shoes still on. The room felt smaller. Plants drooped near the window. The clocks ticking scraped at my nerves. Then her text came, "Chill, Uncle Ed." It was just a joke. Don't let people blow it up. No apology, just instruction. The screen dimmed while I stared at it. For a moment I thought about leaving Chicago, selling everything, starting somewhere quiet where decency wouldn't be mistaken for weakness. But I knew I wouldn't. My life had been poured into this place, every nail, every wall, every quiet corner. By afternoon, I ended up walking by the river. Strangers hurried past, their pace brisk and sure. I leaned against the railing, trying to steady my thoughts. It was never about money. I had enough savings, investments, more than most. Respect, though, was a currency people stopped paying once they decided they'd outgrown you. I remembered Rebecca at 16 crying over a failed exam. I'd stayed up with her teaching formulas she barely cared about. "You're the smartest man I know," she'd said. Now I was simple. The word clung like smoke. I walked until my hands went numb. When I returned, the streetlights were on. My neighbor Hal waved from his porch. I waved back, too tired to talk. The phone rang. "Marion, you still breathing barely? You gonna tell her how you feel? What's the point?" "The point is she thinks you'll take anything." "You won't, right?" I didn't answer. "You've got that engineer brain," she went on. "Always building, never tearing down what hurts. Maybe some things fix themselves." "They don't," she said. "Not people." We drifted to lighter talk, her garden, grocery prices, the weather. When we hung up, I felt strangely clearer. Her bluntness worked like a cold wash cutting through the fog. I wasn't angry anymore, just aware of how easily others define you when you stop speaking for yourself. Marion showed up, that weekend newspaper tucked under her arm. 3 firm knocks, never shy, never patient. I hadn't expected her, but I opened the door. She brushed past me and dropped the paper on the table. "You've seen this?" The front page showed Rebecca and her husband under a crystal arch. Local finance executive marries in lavish ceremony. My name wasn't there. I wasn't surprised. What caught my eye was the caption, "Family and guests celebrate a union of success and promise." Marion leaned on the counter. "They cropped you out." I nodded. Guess I didn't fit the theme. She watched me, weighing what to say, then poured coffee without asking. That was her way comfort without ceremony. "I'm fine," I said. "You always say that," she replied. "One day you won't be." She left soon after. The door closed, and the apartment slipped back into stillness. I stared at that photo, not hurt the same way anymore, just struck by how cleanly I'd been erased. Humiliation doesn't fade. It just waits under the skin until something scratches it again. That night, I called Rebecca. The phone rang 4 times before she answered. "Hi, Uncle Ed," she said, cheerful too quick. "I wanted to talk." "Sure, I'm a little busy." "Can it wait?" "I saw the article," I said. "Did you send that photo?" She paused. "Oh, probably Mom did." "Why they cut me out?" "The picture had to fit the layout," she said, almost laughing. "It's not a big deal, right?" Her tone carried distance, like she'd already moved on. "You sound tired," she added. "Maybe rest more. People worry when you act strange." "Act strange." The words stung worse than the joke at the wedding. "Who's worried?" "Don't take it that way. Everyone just thinks you've been sensitive." The call ended with polite goodbyes, the kind that mean nothing. I let the dial tone hum a few seconds before setting the phone down. The next morning I went to see Mr. Gordon, my old lawyer. His office still smelled of coffee and dust, the same stacks of yellowing paper. "Well, Ed Harris," he said, surprised. "Haven't seen you since you retired." "Everything all right? I need advice. About changing a will." His eyebrows lifted. "You sick? Not yet." He laughed once, then saw I wasn't joking. "You serious? Dead serious?" He nodded, pulled out a notepad. "You know what you want?" "Not exactly. Just want to make sure what I've built ends up where it should." He asked about assets, beneficiaries, technical things I half remembered. I answered. He took notes with that calm precision lawyers use when emotion doesn't matter. Before I left, I asked if someone family, say, tried to contest it. Could they undo it? "Not if it's clear and properly witnessed," he said. Thanked him. Then I stepped into the cold. Back home, the paper from Marion still sat on the table. Folded it, dropped it into the trash. The sound barely registered. Drawers came open one by one. Bank papers, receipts, property records. Hands moved steady, sorting what mattered from what could be released. It wasn't anger. Anger burns quick. This was something colder, exact, like tightening a bolt before the whole frame gives. I made tea, sat at the table, wrote on a pad. If I could do one thing before I die, it would be to leave something good behind. Underlined good, twice, still not sure what it meant. The phone buzzed. "Rebecca again. Uncle Ed, sorry about before. Don't overthink things. Everyone loves you. Let's move on, okay?" Dismissal wrapped in sweetness. No reply. I opened the laptop instead and searched local charities in Chicago. Dozens of names filled the screen: food banks, shelters, housing projects. Southside Community Aid stood out. They helped families who'd lost their homes. Bookmarked it. Remembered winters when Rebecca was small, lopsided snowmen, red hands, her laughter at my bare fingers. People forget the smallest proofs of love first. A letter from the bank arrived Tuesday. Almost tossed it with the rest. Ads, bills, empty promises, until urgent caught my eye. Inside was a notice my accounts flagged for verification. A concern raised by a family member. Called right away. The young man on the line used that careful, practiced empathy. "It's just procedure, Mr. Harris. Someone close to you reported possible confusion with recent activity. We'll need to confirm your mental competency before restoring full access. Who reported it, I'm not authorized to say. Didn't need to ask again." I already knew. The call stayed polite, but when it ended, my hand had left a damp print on the phone. Decades of saving, planning, being careful, and one quiet act had turned me into a question mark. Went to the bank the next morning. The manager, younger than my niece, smiled tight. "Just clearing things up," she said, that blend of pity and authority. Happens often at your age. At your age. Signed what they gave me, answered questions, watched her jot notes about how coherent I sounded. When I pressed again, she lowered her voice. A relative named Rebecca Franklin. Said she worried you might be exploited. Didn't argue. Pointless. Traffic rolled by as I stepped out. Stood there too long, unsure if the anger came from this moment or from every other time I'd been told to keep peace by staying silent. Back home, the banking app showed several frozen transactions. Nothing huge, just enough to make me feel stripped of control. The folder I'd been preparing with Gordon seemed heavier now. That evening, Rebecca's name lit the phone. Uncle Ed, she began, all softness and sugar. You got the notice, don't worry. I just didn't want anyone taking advantage of you. You mean me, I said. You didn't want me taking advantage of me. She laughed, uneasy. Don't make it sound bad. You've been acting strange. People noticed. I'm just looking out for you. By locking my accounts, it's temporary. They said it's easy to fix once you pass review. Rebecca, listen to yourself. Please don't get defensive. I love you. You just need help managing things. I've managed fine for 60 years. A sigh. You're making this harder than it has to be. The line went dead. Stared at the phone until it went dark. Dinner sat cooling on the stove. Poured a glass of water instead, sat down, tried to steady my thoughts. The apartment felt smaller than it ever had. That night, dreamt of the first house I built, the one before she was born. Every wall leaned inward, the ceiling sagged, and when I braced it, the nails turned to dust. Woke sweating at 4:13. Dressed, went for a walk. Streets were quiet but alive in small ways. A bakery truck unloading the faint smell of dough. It reminded me of work of mornings that meant something. Walked until the sky began to pale. When I got home, a voicemail waited Rebecca again, her tone gentler now. Uncle Ed, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to upset you. Can we talk this weekend dinner? Maybe deleted it. At 9, called Gordon. We need to finalize the will. Everything all right? Not really, but it's time. He didn't press. Come by this afternoon. Gathered the papers, slid them into a worn leather folder, took the train downtown. The car rattled like it always did, the rhythm oddly steadying. No one there knew who I was or what had been taken from me. I preferred it that way. Gordon's office was warm and cluttered. He asked a few questions, then watched me sign. My signature looked steadier than it felt. Want me to keep a copy? Yes. One here, one with me. As I turned to leave, he called out, You sure about this, Ed? Once it's filed, there's no undoing it. That's the point. Marion dropped by, unannounced, 2 cups of coffee in hand, and that look that meant she already knew too much. You look like hell, she said, setting one down. I've had better weeks. She waited, sipping quietly, giving me room to speak. When I didn't, she leaned forward. You gonna tell me why you look like someone stole your backbone? Told her about the bank, the call, the way Rebecca talked to me like I'd lost sense? Marion listened, arms crossed, then gave a low whistle. She's got nerve, she said. And you're letting her run the show again. I'm not looking for a fight. Maybe you should be. She reached into her bag and slid a pamphlet across the table. Southside Outreach. I help there on weekends. Their good people could use support. The picture showed a man handing soup to a child. Why show me this? Because you're sitting on a fortune and acting like it's a headstone. Maybe build something that matters. Didn't answer. She finished her coffee, tapped my shoulder. You always said you wanted to build something that lasts. Maybe this is it. Then she left. The pamphlet stayed where it was. Couldn't stop thinking about that phrase, something that lasts. By evening, I called the number printed. Southside Outreach, a man said, tired but kind. I'm not calling for help. Just wondering how to donate. He chuckled. That's refreshing. We take everything fundraisers, direct aid, property donations if you're serious. Property donations, I repeated. Yes, sir. Land or housing, whichever fits. Maybe both, I said, though I wasn't sure yet. He gave me an email directions for paperwork, wrote it on an envelope corner. The room felt still, like it was waiting for me to move. The phone buzzed Rebecca again. Dinner at our place Friday. Let's talk. Didn't want to go, but skipping it would only make me look unstable. Replied, all right. Friday came quick. Wore the same suit from her wedding. The drive felt longer than it was. She greeted me with that polished smile. Matt shook my hand too hard. Dinner stayed polite. Talk of real estate honeymoons names I didn't care to know. When she set her fork down, I knew something was coming. Uncle Ed, she began, I heard you met with your lawyer again. You're not planning anything reckless, are you, Reckless? I mean, you don't need to stress. Let us help. You've done enough. I'm not dying, I said. She laughed lightly. Of course not. I just want what's best for you. What's best for me hasn't been your concern in a long time. Matt cleared his throat. No one's accusing anyone. We just want peace. Then stop treating me like a problem to fix. Her face hardened. Why are you being so defensive? Pushed my chair back. Because you're deciding how much of me you can control. No one spoke. She gathered plates, muttering about dessert. I left before she returned. The street was cold, the night still. My keys jingled as I reached the car. Felt no anger, just emptiness. At home, the pamphlet waited. The faces printed there, ordinary but alive, looked more human than anyone at that table. Found Gordon's number called. He answered groggy. Ed, it's late, I know. Need to add something to the will. Tomorrow morning? He sighed. All right. Poured a drink, let the burn clear my head. Scribbled notes, what to give, what to leave behind. The lines blurred once or twice from fatigue, not tears. When I finished, the city was quiet. Folded the paper, slipped it into my briefcase beside the legal folder. The phone lit again. Rebecca. You didn't even say goodbye. Gordon greeted me with a half-joking grin. You look better today. I slept, I said. That's all I can claim. His office looked the same piles of paper like quiet monuments to other people's choices. We reviewed each page. I wanted it clean, every property, every cent transferred to Southside Outreach. No loopholes, no signatures needed beyond mine. When he asked if I was sure, I said yes. My tone startled me, steady, almost cold. He studied me a moment, then nodded and typed. The printer hummed, and I signed each sheet. His assistant witnessed the process. When we finished, he pushed one copy toward me. You've just made some people very uncomfortable. I can live with that. Most can't, he said, smiling faintly. I walked out lighter, stopped at a diner near the station. The waitress, maybe 20, called me sir without looking up. Ordered coffee and toast. While waiting, I saw another missed call from Rebecca. No message, just her name, sitting there like a warning. Turned the phone face down. Back home, the answering machine blinked. Rebecca, again too cheerful for the words she used. Uncle Ed, please call me. Someone said you were with a lawyer. I just want to be sure no one's taking advantage of you. Her concern sounded practiced. I erased the message. The rain came steady that afternoon. I sorted old boxes, photos, certificates, postcards from people long gone. Near the bottom found a letter from Rebecca at 12, written in purple ink. You're my favorite grown-up. The paper had yellowed, but her handwriting was steady. I folded it and slipped it into my wallet without knowing why. A text buzzed from an unknown number. Mr. Harris, this is Tom from Southside Outreach. We received your documents. Thank you. We'd love to meet whenever you're available. I typed back, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Perfect, he replied. Slept soundly. The next day drove to the South Side. Their building sat between a grocery and a laundromat, modest but solid. People worked with quiet purpose. Tom greeted me, tall and tired-eyed, handshake firm. "Mr. Harris, I can't tell you what this means for us," he said. "You're helping hundreds of families. I just want it done right," I told him. "No nameplates." He smiled. "That's rare. We talked logistics, timelines, paperwork, how the funds would help." Hearing him describe their work eased something tight in me. Not pride, not relief, just a calm knowing that what I'd built would finally outlive me. Before I left, he handed me a brochure. "Visit anytime," he said. "I might," I replied. Stepped outside. The faint scent of bread drifted from a nearby bakery. Stood still for a moment, content in the anonymity. Driving home, my phone rang. Rebecca. I answered. "Where are you out? With who does it matter people are talking? I heard you've been giving money away. Are you losing it?" "Uncle Ed, I'm fine," I said evenly. "You don't need to worry about what's mine anymore. You're scaring me." "No," I said. "I think I'm finally doing the opposite." A long pause. "Then, you're being selfish. I've been everything but for too long." She hung up. At home evening, light filtered through the blinds. The outreach brochure rested beside Gordon's folder, two halves of the same decision. I made soup simple, and quiet ate while the power flickered once, then steadied. Finished my meal in the calm that followed, thinking how peace could feel so silent. After washing up, I put the kettle back on, called Marion. She picked up on the second ring. "Well," she said. "Feeling any better yet? Maybe getting there." "Good. Don't stop now." Her voice made me smile. We talked about nothing, the neighbor's dog gas prices, the weather. She didn't ask about Rebecca, and I didn't offer. 2 days later, the bank letter cleared my accounts. Relief didn't come, only a quiet emptiness. The money wasn't the issue anymore. What mattered was the truth it revealed. You can build a life with your own hands, and someone will still decide you're unfit to hold it. Spent the morning sorting receipts just to keep busy. Numbers behaved. People didn't. Around noon, made a sandwich, ate half-tossed the rest. No taste. The phone rang, Marion first, then Rebecca. Ignored both. Silence had its own language. Used right, it said enough. Back home, opened Gordon's folder again. My signature looked final, deliberate. Traced the ink. The choice felt distant, yet mine. The next morning, another letter, this one from Rebecca's husband's firm. Concern over recent financial decisions. Potential undue influence. Simple translation, they wanted control. Stood at the counter rereading it, hoping the words would soften. They didn't. Thought about calling Gordon, then didn't. Let them come. I had nothing to hide. Mid-afternoon? The phone buzzed. "Rebecca." I answered mostly out of curiosity. "I told you," she started, "you're not thinking straight. People are worried. People or you both. You're giving everything away. That's not normal. It's mine to give. It's self-destructive. You're letting strangers use you. Strangers didn't try to seize my accounts. Don't twist this. Then stop making me something to fix." Her breath quickened. "If you keep this up, I'll have to protect you from yourself." I laughed once dry. "You already tried that." Then ended the call. For a while, stood still, phone in hand. The absurdity hit me. The girl I once taught to ride a bike was now threatening to decide if I could handle my own life. That night, Marion showed up with groceries. She never knocked gently. "You look awful," she said. I handed her the letter. She read it, jaw tightening. "They're not done, are they?" "No." "You're calm about it. I'm just done fighting what can't be fixed. Don't confuse surrender with peace. I'm not surrendering, just choosing where to stand." She nodded. "Then stand somewhere that matters." Couldn't sleep. Her words stayed. Around midnight, I turned on the desk lamp, opened Gordon's folder, and wrote a note. I did this by choice. Not confusion, not guilt. I've lived quietly but with meaning. Don't call this madness. Folded it into the first page. The next morning went back to Southside Outreach. Tom looked surprised. Everything all right? Not really, I said. Wanted to see what happens here on a normal day. He showed me around storage rooms, classrooms, a kitchen humming with quiet work. Faces lined with fatigue but still bright. Nothing fancy, but it mattered. A woman stopped to thank me. She didn't know who I was, just that someone had helped keep the lights on. Her gratitude felt real. For once, I didn't feel small. Tom invited me to lunch soup and crackers at a folding table. Ever thought about volunteering? I wouldn't know where to start. You already did, he said, smiling. When I left, traffic buzzed, but the noise didn't touch me. Drove home slow, cold, brushing my hands. Another message waited Rebecca again, this time through her husband's office meeting scheduled to review your financial safety. Next week. Didn't answer, didn't plan to, sat at the table flipping through the outreach brochure. Someone had written on the back, "You can't measure a life by what it keeps, only by what it gives." Ran my finger over the words. Not mine, but true enough. Tom called early. His voice was tight. "Mr. Harris, you might want to see this. There's an article in the Tribune mentions your name." Opened the laptop and found it fast. Elderly donor raises concern over sudden multi-million gift. Family members questioned my mental state. Rebecca's name wasn't printed, but it didn't need to be. The tone was polished professional and quietly cruel. I sat there, hands on the keyboard, listening to the refrigerator hum. The rest of the room held its breath. When I finally stood, my knees cracked louder than the silence. Poured coffee, watched the steam twist up, then called Gordon. He'd already read it. You want to respond? No. Silence can look like guilt, Ed. Maybe. Or peace. He sighed. You know what you're doing? I just wish they did. Around noon, I went back to the outreach center. Tom met me at the door, newspaper tucked under his arm. Didn't expect this kind of attention, he said. Not your fault. Some donors would panic. I'm not most donors. That earned half a smile. We spent the afternoon packing food boxes, the tape-snapping cans, thudding into cardboard soft talk, filling the room. The rhythm steadied me. A volunteer named Denise asked if I was that Mr. Harris. When I nodded, she said, "You did a good thing. Don't let them steal that from you." Gratitude, I found, was harder to carry than blame. Driving home, the radio mumbled about traffic. My stomach tightened, imagining Rebecca reading that article, telling herself she'd been right all along. At home, the answering machine blinked. Marion's voice came through. I saw the news. You all right? Don't let them grind you down. I didn't call back. Sat with the Tribune I'd bought on the way home. My name glared in print, wrapped in speculation. Nobody had called to ask me a thing. Nobody cared what I'd built, only that it didn't fit their idea of sanity. Folded the paper, used it to start a fire. The ink shrank, curled, turned to smoke. Watching it burn, I felt no anger, just the stillness that comes once something finally breaks. That night, Rebecca called. I let it ring before picking up. I didn't know they'd print your name, she said quickly. I tried to stop it. Sure you did. I was only protecting you. From doing what I want with what I earned. From making a fool of yourself. Do you even understand how this looks? I don't care how it looks. You should. Reputation matters. Only to people who still need one. Her breath hitched. You're ruining everything I've built. That's what I thought when you were little and ignored me. Now you know the feeling. She hung up. I stared at the phone, then opened the window a crack. Cold wind slipped through, carrying the city's usual noise sirens, trains' laughter life moving as if nothing had happened. The next morning, another call, a reporter asking for comment. I declined, unplugged the phone, and walked to the grocery. The cashier, a kid barely 20, grinned. "Morning, Mr. Harris. Rough week, something like that. You don't seem like the crazy type they wrote about. Crazy's cheaper than complicated." He blinked, unsure if it was a joke. Bagged my things anyway. Back home, I made tea, the apartment faintly smelling of toast and burnt newsprint. Thought about calling Marion, then didn't. She'd only remind me I was right. Spent the day fixing small things, the leaky faucet, the loose hinge. Quiet work, steady work. The kind that filled the space where thought might spill. Late afternoon, Tom emailed. "Press asking questions. Want me to reply, tell them nothing I wrote back. Let them write their own endings." He answered. "That's exactly what you've earned the right to do." The week quieted. Calls stopped, headlines faded, outrage moved on. That's how attention works, burns hot, then vanishes. I fell back into routine breakfast, paper short walks, small repairs. The silence that once steadied me now felt like company I hadn't asked for. But I let it stay. One evening at the grocery, the same kid rang me up. "Hey, Mr. Harris," he said. "My mom read about you, says you're some kind of saint. Tell her not to believe everything she reads. She says people only do stuff like that when they're dying." I paused. "We're all dying a little," I said. "Some just start planning sooner." He looked unsure if it was a joke. I paid and left. At home, I lined the cans neatly on the shelf. Every task felt deliberate, a quiet rehearsal of normal life. The phone stayed still. I missed the noise I'd once resented. Later, Marion called. Her tone was rough. "You sound hollow. I'm fine. You always say that, because it's true enough." She hesitated. "Rebecca's been calling me. Wants me to talk sense into you." I'm sure she's unraveling. So am I, apparently. Ed, you can't carry what she never learned. I don't want revenge, Marion. I just want quiet that feels like peace. "You'll find it," she said softly. "Just don't mistake numbness for peace." Morning brought another letter, this one from the Tribune's lawyers. A formal apology, misunderstanding, miscommunication correction to be published. I skimmed it, tore it in half, dropped it in the bin. Some things once taken don't come back. That afternoon, Tom called. "The donation cleared," he said. "We can expand the food program. You should come see it." "I will. You'd be proud. Kids from the neighborhood are helping after school." After the call, I sat a while, then grabbed my coat. The cold bit my face, sharper than coffee, but cleaner. I walked aimlessly past a park, a bus stop, a family unloading groceries. Ordinary life, steady and indifferent. A diner I hadn't seen in years appeared ahead. I went in. "Coffee," the waitress asked. "Please." The room was half full. 2 old men arguing sports, a woman eating alone, workers in uniform. Nobody curious about me. That anonymity felt like relief. The waitress returned with the cup. "Anything else? Not today." The warmth steadied my hands. My phone buzzed. "Please talk." Rebecca again. I typed back, "I already did. You weren't listening," then turned the phone face down. Heavy snow threatened, the kind that melts as it lands. The walk home was slower. My knees complained, but I didn't rush. I'd hurried enough for things that never mattered. At home, I made soup. Ate slow, the spoon tapping the bowl. Plain taste, but it filled what words hadn't. Afterward, I sorted old photos, job sites, half-built, bridges, crews smiling through dust. Then Rebecca as a child, toothless grin holding a crooked drawing. I traced the paper's edge and set it aside. No anger left. Just something quieter, acceptance, maybe fatigue. She wanted to erase where she came from. I wanted to prove that being unseen wasn't the same as being nothing. The phone buzzed again. I didn't look. Some messages speak for themselves. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived, my name stamped in bold. Inside was a petition for guardianship. Rebecca had filed it. Declining judgment and mental instability, it claimed. My name, my choices, my life, reduced to a legal summary. I set the paper on the table, read it twice, and felt a cold certainty settle in. Not surprise, just recognition. People like her don't stop until they own the story, too. Marion came that evening. She didn't greet me, just picked up the document and read. She actually went through with it. Looks that way. She's not protecting you, Ed. She's rewriting you. I know. What are you going to do? Show up. Tell the truth. She paced, restless. You could destroy her in court. I don't need to. You're too calm. I've fought this fight in silence for years, I said. Now she gets to do it out loud. The hearing was Thursday. I wore the same gray suit from her wedding. The courthouse smelled of paper and burnt coffee. They called it an informal proceeding. Rebecca sat beside her husband and a young lawyer. She didn't look at me. The judge, an older woman with no patience for drama, opened the file. We're here to review the petition of Rebecca Franklin concerning Edward Harris. Her lawyer spoke first about the donation, the newspaper, my irrational behavior. Each word trimmed me down. I didn't interrupt. Her hands shook slightly, but her voice stayed firm. When it was my turn, the judge asked if I wished to respond. I'm not here to argue, I said. I've lived quietly and made choices with a clear head. I gave because I had enough, that's all. You're aware your niece believes you were coerced. Coerced into generosity, I asked. I've spent my life being careful, maybe too careful. Now I'm finally doing what I want with what's mine. Rebecca's eyes lifted, startled by how steady my voice was. The judge asked a few practical questions. Finances, health intentions. I answered plainly. When she asked if I had family support, I said, not the kind that helps. An hour later, she closed the file. No basis for guardianship. Petition denied. Rebecca's lawyer started to speak, but the judge cut him off. Ms. Franklin, your uncle is of sound mind. Respect his independence. The gavel fell. Done. Rebecca avoided my gaze as we left. Her husband muttered something about misunderstandings. I didn't respond. In the hallway, Marion waited. You won, she said. I shook my head. No. I just stopped losing. We stepped out into the street. The cold air felt lighter than it had in months. I breathed without needing to explain myself. That afternoon, I stopped by the outreach center. Tom met me at the door, grinning. Heard about the case, he said. News travels fast. Good news deserves to. He showed me around fresh paint, new shelves, volunteers unloading boxes. The place hummed with quiet life. A boy handed me a thank you card covered in crayon scribbles. I tucked it into my jacket pocket. Tom clapped my shoulder. You gave people room to stand again. I didn't answer. Pride wasn't what I felt, just release. At home, the answering machine blinked. Rebecca's voice came through, trembling but composed. Uncle Ed, I'm sorry it came to this. Maybe I overreacted. I hope we can still talk. I replayed it once, then deleted it. No anger left, but forgiveness still too heavy to carry. After washing up, I took the thank you card from my pocket. The paper was thin, the crayon words uneven. Thank you for helping us feel safe. I stared at it a moment. It held more truth than any apology ever had. Rebecca stopped calling. No messages, no attempts through Marion. The quiet didn't hurt. It only confirmed what had already ended. The court papers arrived, stamped and final. I placed them in the drawer with my will and the note I'd written weeks ago. The stack looked orderly, as if all the noise had finally settled into shape. That afternoon, I took the train to the south side. The outreach center's front wall was bright yellow now. Tom waved sleeves, rolled up paint roller dripping. Perfect timing, he said. We're opening the new wing next week. The place hummed with life. Volunteers carried boxes, kids practiced reading at the far end, their voices uneven but full of energy. Near the entrance hung a plaque, built with quiet hands. My name wasn't on it. Tom said they'd chosen the words for me. He was right. We moved supplies for a while. I wasn't strong anymore, but enough to feel useful. A boy named Marcus asked why I was helping if I wasn't paid. Not everything worth doing comes with a paycheck, I said. He nodded as if he already understood. When I left, wind pushed down the street, hinting at rain. I walked home past closing shops and lit windows, feeling something shift small but sure, like stepping out of shadow without noticing when. The answering machine blinked. The voice wasn't Rebecca's, but her mother's. Ed, she said, I don't know what's happened, but Rebecca's not herself. Give her a little grace. Pride breaks slower than anger. I deleted the message, though the word grace stayed. It sounded too generous for what we were now. The next morning, Marion called. You sound lighter, she said. Maybe I am. You going to rest now or find something else to fix? I'm better at fixing. She laughed. Come by this weekend. I'm making stew. I might. You will, she said, and hung up. Friday, I drove over. Her apartment smelled of thyme and roasted vegetables. She handed me a bowl before I sat. Eat first, she said. We finished in comfortable quiet. Then she said, You've spent your life building for others. Maybe build something for yourself. I wouldn't know where to start. Start small, a garden, a project, anything that makes you show up for yourself. I smiled. You should have been a therapist. I'd rather cook. Fewer speeches. Before I left, she packed a container for me. Eat it tomorrow, she said. Don't let it sit. The drive home was calm. Streetlights slid over the windshield like slow pulses. For once, I wasn't heading back to loneliness, just space. Saturday morning, I opened the balcony door. Below the patch of dirt by my building sat bare and forgotten. I decided to try. By noon, I'd bought seed packets, parsley tomatoes, basil, and an old trowel. The soil was dry, stubborn. I worked it loose, patient with each handful. The rhythm steadied me. Hal, my neighbor. Didn't think you were the gardening type. I wasn't, I said. Trying something new. He laughed. Better than arguing with family. I smiled, but didn't answer. When he left, I kept working. By sundown, the soil looked ready. I pressed the seeds in one by one. Back upstairs, I washed my hands, poured a drink. My back ached like the old days on site, honest work, simple proof of effort. Across the street, a kitchen light flickered on. A woman leaned over her sink, humming. Life kept moving, steady as ever. The phone buzzed. I saw what you did with the center. It's good work. Rebecca, I read it twice, set the phone down. No anger, no warmth, just understanding. That would do. The seeds didn't take at first. A week passed, then 2. The dirt stayed brown, stubborn as habit. Still, I watered it each morning, keeping faith in the idea of growth. Marion joked I talked to soil more than people. Maybe I did. The silence down there was patient. On the 3rd week, a thin green shoot appeared, small enough to miss, unless you looked close. I crouched beside it, feeling something loosen in my chest. Proof that care, even after neglect, could still make something rise. That afternoon, Tom called. We're holding a thank you dinner next month, he said. Nothing big, just donors and volunteers. You don't have to come, but people would like to meet you. I'll think about it. Think quick, he laughed. Invites are already printing. The next morning, Rebecca knocked. For a second, I thought I'd imagined it. She stood there holding a grocery bag, tea, honey, and a loaf of bread from the bakery I used to take her to as a kid. You didn't have to, I said. I know, she said softly. I wanted to. Her eyes scanned the room slower now, without judgment. They caught on the balcony. You're planting again. Trying to. That's good. She paused. I saw the center. Tom gave me a tour. They're doing something real there. They are. I didn't understand before she said. About the money. About you. I thought you were giving up. And now? She lowered her gaze. Now I think you stopped waiting for people to deserve what you had to give. The honesty in her voice caught me off guard. Neither of us spoke for a while. Mom wants to see you, she said at last. Maybe another time. She misses you. I know. You're still stubborn. Runs in the family. She smiled, brief but genuine. Before leaving, she touched my arm. I hope you come to that dinner. People should see who you really are. After she left, I watched her walk down the street until she turned the corner. No forgiveness, no bitterness, just quiet understanding that maybe we'd both changed enough to meet halfway someday. I went to the outreach dinner. The hall was simple paper banners, folding tables, chili and cornbread. People laughed easily. Tom introduced me around. Most didn't know the story, none of them cared. A woman from the shelter gave a short speech about the families helped the new program starting. I ate quietly, letting the words pass like music. When it ended, Tom handed me a small envelope. Just a note from the team, for the man who remembered what giving means. I slipped it into my pocket and stepped outside. The city hummed low and steady. Gratitude came quietly, not for being thanked, but for still having a place that needed no explanation. On the walk home, a florist sweeping her stoop offered me a bundle of unsold tulips. They'll open by morning, she said. I thanked her and carried them home. I filled a jar with water, set the flowers on the table. Their stems, bent petals still closed. I thought of the small plant on the balcony life insisting on growing, even when no one asks it to. My phone buzzed. Heard you showed up tonight. Proud of you. Marion, I smiled. Don't make a habit of that, I replied. The outreach center called again. Tom wanted me to speak at their next event. Just a few words, he said. People want to hear from you. I'm no good with speeches. Then tell the truth, he said. That's rarer than a good speech. I told him I'd think about it, though we both knew I wouldn't. Talking had never built much for me. That afternoon, I took the train downtown. It had been months since I'd walked by the old firm. I didn't plan to go in, just wanted to see if the building still stood. The sign was the same, a new name added beneath it. Time layers itself that way, one generation painted over another. Across the street, the cafe where I used to buy coffee was now a dry cleaner. I smiled at the thought, how everything familiar gets replaced by something useful. The city pulsed around me, cars, half-heard conversations, someone laughing into a phone. None of it felt personal. Maybe that was the peace in it, being unseen again. When I got home, Marion called just as the kettle began to hum. Tom says you might speak, she said. He says a lot of things. You should. I don't see the point. The point is, people listen when someone speaks without wanting anything back. I let that sit. I'll think about it. You always say that. Sometimes I mean it. She laughed. Then mean it this time. Later, I sat at the table with a notepad. The blank page looked too clean. I wrote a few lines, crossed them out, then left one. Dignity isn't what people give you. It's what you stop letting them take. The next morning, the plants had grown taller, their leaves curling toward the light. I loosened the soil, careful not to break anything. Hal leaned over the fence. Starting a farm, just keeping busy. Well, it looks better than before. Takes time. Doesn't everything I watered the roots, then sat on the bench I'd dragged from the shed. The scent of wet soil mixed with the day's warmth. I almost called Rebecca to tell her about the flowers, about how small things surprise you if you let them, but chose silence instead. The phone rang anyway. Her name again. I answered. I read something about the center, she said. They mentioned you. Tom's fault. It was kind. You sounded grounded. Guess I stopped tripping over my own patience. She laughed softly. Can I visit sometime? Sure. I'll call first. All right. When the call ended, I stayed still for a moment. Her tone had changed, gentler, real. It was enough. That evening, I walked to the corner store. The same cashier grinned. You're in the paper again. My mom says you're officially the nicest old guy around. Tell her she's wrong. I just outlived my temper. He chuckled. Whatever it is, people notice. I took the long route home, past the church, the park, the bench where Rebecca once waited for her bus. Everything seemed smaller now. Maybe that was just age or perspective. Back in the apartment, I poured a glass of milk and sat at the table. The tulips had begun to droop. I trimmed their stems, changed the water, and glanced toward the balcony. The garden below held steady green and certain. The phone buzzed again. Tom, still thinking about that speech. The stage is waiting. I wrote back. Maybe the truth doesn't need a stage. Maybe it just needs time. He replied with a thumbs up. I laughed, shaking my head. Rebecca showed up one Sunday while I was watering the garden. Her car stopped by the curb, and she stepped out slowly, unsure if she was welcome. I wiped my hands on a rag and waited. I brought lunch, she said, lifting a paper bag. Then I guess you can come in. She unpacked sandwiches from the same deli we used to visit years ago. We sat at the kitchen table, quiet, except for the crinkle of paper and the hum of the fridge. She didn't rush to fill the silence, and I didn't help her. Midway through eating, she said, "You look different. Older. Peaceful. I didn't think you'd ever forgive me." "I didn't," I said. "I just stopped being angry. It's heavy work carrying that around." She nodded. "Mom says you always had that quiet kind of strength. I used to think it was weakness. Most people do." Her smile was faint. "The garden's beautiful. You always knew how to build things. Plants don't talk back." She laughed, brief but real. Then more serious. "I came to tell you something. I got a promotion vice president at the firm." "That's good. It feels hollow. I thought getting there would fix something, but it didn't. Nothing external ever does," I said. "You learn that too late to impress anyone." She studied me. "I used to want your approval. Then I decided you needed mine. And now, I just want us to stop needing anything from each other. That's the first honest thing you've said in years." Her eyes watered. "I deserve that." "I'm not trying to hurt you," I said quietly. "I'm just too old to polish the truth anymore." We finished the meal without talking. At the door, she hesitated. "If you ever need anything, I know." She nodded, left it at that, and walked away. After she was gone, I cleared the table, wrapped the leftovers, set the kettle on. The silence wasn't empty, just the room settling back into itself. That evening, Marion called. "You sound lighter." "I think something shifted," I said. "Like a knot came undone. About time," she said. "Life repeats lessons until you learn them." "Yeah. Then it stops being polite about it." We talked about small things, the weather, her neighbor's fence, her stew. Before hanging up, she said, "Come by next weekend. Bring some of that peace with you." "I'll try." Later, I checked the garden. The tomatoes had started to flower, tiny yellow buds trembling in the wind. The smell of damp soil pulled me back to old job sites, unfinished structures, hard work, quiet persistence. Hal came out with his dog. "You've got something good going here," he said. "Most folks your age are slowing down. I'm just trying to stay awake." He grinned. "Whatever works." We talked about the neighborhood new tenants, rent hikes, pointless city projects, the kind of talk that builds quiet trust. When he went in, I sat on the bench by the garden, the light, faded air cooling just enough to pull my sleeves down. The world felt smaller, but clearer too. Inside, the phone blinked. A voicemail from Tom. "We're hosting another community dinner next week. Would be nice to see you again." I deleted it. Maybe I'd go, maybe not. It didn't feel urgent. I made tea and watched kids playing on the street. Their laughter rose and fell like wind through leaves, unplanned, easy. Life never stopped trying to start over. The phone buzzed again. I forgot to say thank you. For everything. I typed back, "You already did. Just keep living right." The tea had cooled, but I finished it anyway. Streetlights blinked on a truck, rumbled past, the sound fading slow. I rinsed the cup, turned off the light, and paused by the shelf. The photo of Rebecca as a child still stood there. I thought about putting it away, but left it. Some things don't need closure, just space to breathe. Months passed before I noticed how much the garden had changed. Tomato vines curled up the railing, basil spread wide, parsley thickened, until the soil disappeared. Each morning I watered, then sat with coffee watching how small things insist on surviving. Marion stopped by more often, knocking once before letting herself in, always carrying something from her kitchen. "You're still alive," she'd joke, setting down a jar of soup or pickled vegetables. "I'm hard to get rid of," I'd tell her, and she'd shake her head smiling. One Saturday, she brought a pie and a newspaper. "You made the news again," she said. "They wrote about that scholarship fund at the outreach." "I didn't start it," I said. "They just used what I gave them." "Still counts," she said. "You're like one of those old trees that drops seeds even when nobody's watching." I didn't know what to say. Her metaphors always walked the line between teasing and truth. She poured coffee for both of us and sat down. "You ever think about moving closer to them?" she asked. "The center's across town. You could get a place nearby, help out when you feel like it." "I like it here," I said. "The noise is predictable. The walls already know me. You're attached to your ghosts. Some of them mind their manners." We talked through the afternoon, her nephew's wedding, the neighbor's barking dog, the tomatoes turning red. When she left, the apartment settled into quiet again, the kind that didn't ache. That night, I found Tom's old card, the one signed by everyone from the center. The corners were bent, but the words still clear. "Thank you for helping us stand again." I set it on the table, a reminder that something good had stayed. Days passed easily. I began volunteering twice a week, fixing shelves and patching walls. No one treated me like a benefactor, which was a relief. I was just another set of hands. Tom would stop by sometimes. "We're adding a community garden next spring," he said. "Could use your green thumb. My plants behave because they don't know better." "Perfect," he laughed. "They'll fit right in." Evenings I'd walk home through the park, families packing up picnics, joggers cooling down, kids chasing one another across the grass. Ordinary peace. The world kept moving, but it didn't drag me with it anymore. Rebecca called in July. "I wanted to tell you I'm getting married again. Small ceremony, no speeches this time." "Good," I said. "Keep it simple." "I was thinking of inviting you." "Only if you want to." "I do. But even if you don't come, I wanted you to hear it from me. I appreciate that." A pause. "I'm sorry it took me this long to grow up." "We all take our turns," I said. After the call, I stood by the window. Evening light stretched across the street. Kids drew crooked hearts in chalk that would wash away by morning. Everything fades, words, anger, pride, and maybe that's what keeps them bearable. By August, the garden had gone wild. I trimmed what I could, gave herbs to neighbors, let the rest do what it wanted. Hal came by to borrow a hose nozzle and stayed to talk about the city's plan to replace our roof. "You think we'll still be here next year?" he asked. "If not, something else will. Guess that's good enough." Later, Marion dropped off another pie but didn't stay. "Come next weekend," she said. We're having a barbecue. Tom's bringing his wife and the folks from the center, too. I'll try. You always say that she teased poking my arm, because I always mean it. That weekend I went. The yard was small but lively kids, running laughter, weaving through half-finished stories. Someone handed me a plate, someone else a glass of lemonade. No speeches. Rebecca wasn't there, but Tom was, and Marion kept introducing me to people I'd never met. This is Ed, she'd say. He's the reason half this crowd even knows each other. I smiled a little embarrassed, mostly grateful. When the evening wound down and most people had gone, Marion sat beside me on the porch steps. "You look like you're finally breathing easy," she said. "I think I just stopped waiting for life to apologize." She laughed softly. "That's as close to wisdom as you've ever sounded." We stayed quiet. The smell of charcoal and summer grass lingered. She leaned her head against my shoulder and I let her. At home, the apartment felt warm. I set the leftover pie on the counter and looked out at the garden. Fireflies blinked above the plants, a soft, uneven rhythm. I didn't think about the past anymore, or what anyone owed anyone. I just watched the light shift between dark and bright until it stopped mattering which was which. Then I turned off the kitchen light and let the quiet of the city carry the rest.